No, that's
Oh.
680.
Can you disconnect that echo, please?
We ended 680.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Folks are having technical difficulties, so we get started here.
Thank you, Trevor. 6. Oh, that's not right. Well, that's really fun.
Welcome to Zoom. Enter your meeting ID followed by pound. You entered
Fat
8,
fingers.
7, 8, 8, 9, 3, 8, 0, 6, 3, 3, 5. This meeting ID does not exist. Please re-enter your meeting.
Technology, wonderful.
Enter your participant ID followed by pound. Please enter the meeting password followed by pound. You are in the meeting now. There are 4 participants in the meeting. This meeting is being recorded.
Testing. Look at me.
Sure that.
Testing.
Caller on the Zoom, with the last 4427, can you identify yourself, please?
No, they merged, you merged them.
I merged with that's us.
Well, folks, we do not have a quorum. So we are hopefully going to get a hold of one of our council members so she can call in.
Vicki, we'll just put you on the speaker on my cell phone, and as long as you're here, we're okay.
Thanks, Vicki. Okay, all right, well, we'll go ahead and call this meeting to order. I'll call this meeting of the City Council Workshop for Monday, February 6th, 2023 to order. Council, for the record, Councilor Farmer and Councilor Hart have requested excused absences. If there's no objection, I'll excuse them. Hearing seeing no objection, so ordered. Mr. Farmer and Ms. Hart are excused from tonight's proceeding. We do have a quorum with Ms. Ripley on the line, so we'll go ahead and move on to the active agenda, Sunnyside Police Department take-home vehicle program discussion. Madam City Manager, can you brief the audience and council on this item?
Yes, have briefly mentioned this, but I will turn it over to Chief Lehman so that he can discuss the plans or.
Okay, so we're in the middle of negotiations right now, and this has been brought up, and you guys all have this, spreadsheet right here. All have that,
I think
piece
so.
of packet.
Council, have you seen that spreadsheet? Have it?
It's titled Yakima County Law Enforcement Patrol Team.
In the packet. In the packet, Vicki. Yeah, online, the online packet,
I don't have an online packet.
okay.
There,
We'll make sure you get one.
All right, Chief, go ahead.
So if you take a look at this, we are the last agency in Yakima County without a take-home policy for their. The guild has come to us and asked for one, and this is something that's been brought up a couple of times in the past, and something
Chief
that,
Lehman, could you pull your microphone closer?
sorry, is that better?
Yes, that's
Okay. So this is something that's been brought up a couple times in the past, and for negotiations, we're looking for some direction from council on what parameters you guys would like to see. In the last, 5 years, we've lost 7 officers to agencies with take-home cars, and not all of those agencies, actually, I don't think any of them paid better than we did. Cars, one of the first things we get asked when someone comes in to apply. Right now, we can't find cops. So anything we can do to retain the ones that we have. We had a test not that long ago. I think we had 10 to 12 people apply. 4 confirmed to show up for the test. 1 didn't show up. 1 couldn't pass the physical. We ended up with 2 viable candidates. We're really struggling to find people right now. We have, I believe, 5 openings in the police department. And when we're bringing in 2 people at a time to test, that's not going to be. So if you take a look, here's a copy of those policies that are on this spreadsheet. I don't know if you guys have had a chance to review that or not. Talks about some of the restrictions that they have at the different agencies. Most of that is reflected on this spreadsheet. Talks about whether there's allowed for personal use off duty. And the Yakima Police Department is yes, Wapatos case-by-case basis. Talks about their mileage radius and whether it's taken care of in policy or in a collective bargaining agreement. When it says maintenance responsibility, the city's taking care of that on all of these programs. There are several studies out there that show that take-home cars typically last longer, they're taken care of better, and they might have a little higher mileage based on they do last longer. So, answer any questions you may have.
Council.
What do you do if the vehicle's involved in a collision or taken out of service? Now you have an officer going to work with nothing to do.
So what you do is we'll have a couple of pool cars, and so what they'll have to do is transfer into a pool car that would be available for them. Agency our size should probably have 2, 3.
Following Yakima's thing here, if we go 10 straight line miles from Sunnyside, how many officers are we talking?
Probably 7 to 8.
Shipley, do you have any questions?
how many officers did he have?
Within a 10-mile radius, he would have 7 to 8.
That's what we're going for, that's what he's going for, is mile radius?
No, actually, I think, if I could answer for you, we are looking for as close to West Richland as we can get because that's where most of our officers live. And one thing that Rob didn't mention that was a big seller for me, right now our officers come to the station, they get dressed, get their vehicle, do their inspection before they get in, and then the one outgoing shift also has to basically do their exit inspection and then get undressed to go, and it's all on the clock. So we would have we would be losing 2 hours of mandatory overtime every. And that is a huge one for us. The other part is they would be in service as soon as they got in the car and ready to be able to show up in Sunnyside right now and do something. Right now we have that overlap that really kind of adds costs for us. And then there's hidden costs too that you just don't always think about. That time is one of the biggest hidden costs that you have. So that one is a really big one. We would see immediate changes.
There's a situation actually happening right now. We have a car collision, near the end of shift. Day shift goes out to the head-on collision, and they're all out there. Night shift shows up. Some of those officers share cars. So now night shift is getting into a car that may or may not have their rifle, their patrol bag, their other equipment that they're used to in their own car, because their car's out of the crash scene. So they're having to jump into essentially a pool car that's, for all intents and purposes, stripped down, it stays off. And so they're out there working right now without their equipment until that car is freed up from the collision. That's actually happening right now. So.
Yes.
Have we, crunched the numbers on setting up all these extra cars? Mileage?
We haven't,
maintenance?
because a lot of
We need to know
that's
the
cost, a lot of that's gonna depend on the radius, and I'm just looking for some direction to start towards. You know, if we went 10 miles right now, or 20 miles, we have enough cars. If we went 35 miles, we don't have enough cars to do it. So that's,
We're shooting for West Richland, what's that?
It was
25 miles.
25, 30
25
miles.
about 30 from city limits,
Yeah.
which would be Sunny Park.
Okay.
And we're, in the process of doing the enterprise fleet. We have cars that are coming. We can, within a year, probably get this set up. I think we would just be basically getting some new cars and some old cars, and we would just have to. It's possible. I see it as something we can do.
I understand the presence thing of the car out in the lot, but, you know, Sunnyside car in West Richland doesn't really help us.
We had a car here in Sunnyside, was that?
We had an officer that lived in, worked in Mattawa, that lived in Sunnyside. Every agency's doing it. There's white P cars that go up to Ellensburg every day because they're on special duty. Another thing to think about is we're getting ready to put a couple guys on the SWAT team. They're gonna have a host of specialized equipment in their car. They're gonna be able to take their car from where they live to the scene. What if the scene is between their house and the PD? They have to pass the scene, come to the PD to get a car and go back to the scene. There's a lot of different, things to consider. We have people on special investigation units that respond all over the county for off-road shootings. If they live towards Yakima, most of them happen in Yakima. Last year there was 12, and I think 8 of them were in Yakima. I'm asking you guys what you're comfortable with, but I can tell you that 10 miles is the least on here, and most of them are around 20.
What about, the officers that don't qualify for this? Now they're gonna, officers have it, and
Well, that's for your guild to answer what you're looking for. We can only go with what we feel is, and if somebody lives 2 hours away, we're not gonna be able to take them.
And Rob mentioned to me, Chief Lehman mentioned to me that there are some agencies that have this limitation, and some of them park their personal vehicle here and then pick up their unit here and then drive. They cut their commute by that 20 miles or whatever it is. And Sunnyside is pretty. I think they just do that with permission of their.
So Chief, we had 7 to 10, you said, within the 10-mile radius, is that what you said?
Yeah, 7 to 8 probably.
My concern is on fuel costs. That's my number one thing. You know, I'm, as a state transportation commissioner, I'm constantly looking at hedging fuel costs because the state hedges their fuel for ferries and things of that nature. So I'm just wondering, have we even looked at what the additional fuel cost would be if we had officers going home every night?
No, I can have that for you.
Really, we're just putting our toe in the water at this point, just trying to get you guys to say, yes, look at it, and then give us what maximum you absolutely. and then we'll come back with numbers.
Cost and, what taxes are we gonna bump up to make this work?
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel too. I like the idea of take-home vehicles close to the city. I prefer that living in the city. And we actually, council, we wrestled with this about 8 or 9 years ago and talked about just that. If an officer lived in the city, they could take a vehicle home. If they didn't live in the city, they couldn't. We never got through the process of creating that policy, but that was the discussion at the time. I grew up on the East Coast in Connecticut, and I think I told the manager this story. As a kid, I was a little mischievous, and I used to get in trouble. And a few of the other kids in the neighborhood were the same way. So, but anyway, there was one road that we didn't do anything. We didn't toilet paper anybody's house or any of that stuff because there was a state trooper's car parked right in the driveway right there. That was like a billboard: stay away from this house and all the houses in the neighborhood. I'd like to see that happening here in Sunnyside, but my concern is that we don't have enough officers actually living here in our.
So here's mine, what I can throw out. Would you like us to do them in 5-mile increments, start at 30 and then go 5 miles, go to 30, 25, 20? Or is that too much information? Do you want us to start 25 and go down? Do you want it in 10-mile increments? What would you like?
Council?
Mine is distance and costs, and like I said, where we're gonna fund it from.
Right.
We have to set up new cars, fully set them up, right, because they'd have to be ready to go, right? And, I was just reading the policies here about where the weapons have to be kept when they're parked. Personnel that can ride in them. To me, it should be the officer and that's it. They're not a personal take-home to use everyday car, a work car.
Well, but some of the policies, and that's why I'm glad we're having this conversation, Chief, because some of the policies do allow them to take their, right?
Yeah,
Like grocery
it does.
stores and things of that nature.
City of Yakima takes their car anywhere they want when they off there.
That's right.
I know Yakima officers go snowboarding top of White Pass on their day off in their patrol car. I don't think we're asking for that. If we have somebody that's, coming into work and their kid goes to school here and they want to drop their kid off on the way to school, I mean, that would be, I think, cool. Maybe the city requires that they carry a rider on their insurance or, the city or something to that.
If that's.
Everywhere I've ever worked, it was only that we didn't have anyone except for a city employee in a vehicle. So and that would be something I don't have experience.
I knew they do ride-alongs, and we allow civilians in that case.
But they sign a waiver.
They sign a waiver, right,
Yeah.
yeah, I signed a waiver. So maybe that's something where family members or something of that nature are allowed to ride in a vehicle as long as it's, like you said, en route to work or coming home from work, something like that.
And if I may, Commander Bessie would like to speak, or is that okay with
Oh, by all means.
Come on up.
Council, no objection here to workshop. By all means.
Madam Mayor, Deputy Mayor, council members. It's gonna cost us a little bit more money in gas and fuel, but we have to look at the wear and tear on vehicles. We might spend money here, but we'll be saving money in the long run when it comes to wear and tear. Some of these cars they're worked or they ran 8 days a week. If we have people take home their cars, they're resting for 4 days. So they're not constantly being driven, which would accumulate the same gas mileage if they're being driven all the time. So we would save on repairs, tires, and everything else when we're dealing with cars. So we might spend more money here, but we'll be saving a lot more with repairs on vehicles.
Thank you, Commander. Commander, we may have questions. Yeah, anyone have questions, Commander? Thank you.
The other thing, and this is why we're kind of here, is we're brainstorming with you as well. And the time on the vehicle is also something that we're going to think about. Being idle sometimes, because they don't turn their vehicles off because it runs the battery out within, if you're lucky. So they have to keep them on so that their power stays on. And so that's another thing that it will save, because that vehicle will actually be resting on their, instead of running 24 hours a day. So there is a lot to consider with this, and when we sit down, we'll try to figure out all those little things that add into the station.
I think that would probably be the best, right? Commander, if you can provide a before and after type scenario, so we can see, this is what we're paying right now, and, in cost for maintenance and things, and fuel and things of that nature, and this is what we will be. I think that will give council an opportunity to see, what the best solution is. That'd be great.
And I'd like to see an upfront cost of approximately, if we were full staff, how many new cars we would have to buy.
And actually, I believe it's our intention to roll this out as we roll out new cars. We wouldn't actually have any capital purchases. We would use our fleet through enterprise, and those would be the assignments. So we aren't asking for you to fund us a bunch of new cars. That way it would be a rollout. So it would be, okay, we have an extra car, now we're assigning it to the closest person. And then we have another car, we assign it to the next closest. It would be a gradual rollout.
Does that count full equipment of that car?
Yeah, that accounts for
The
everything.
radios, the cage,
Yeah, so when we get a car in our lot, it is completely turnkey and ready for them to turn on and go out.
Have the ones we purchased from the Longview Ford yet?
They are at the, person that puts on the lights and the radios and does all that.
No, Ford,
Urbanate.
Ford is, have a window that you can get in and order your car. So we were able to order in that window saying that our car will be built this year.
But they had surplus cars is what we
No,
were.
we bought the two Tahoes surplus because we don't know so we bought two Tahoes because they were on the lot ready to go. Those are here, those are waiting for the light packages. I called him today actually, and he said he doesn't know when they'll be. Now, the cars through, Enterprise Rental Fleet haven't even been built yet. They haven't been assigned a VIN or anything, but we're guaranteed they're gonna be built.
I thought we had them. I was confused. Yeah, the intention for us is not to ask for capital for vehicles. It would be a gradual rollout as we get cars available. So we would end up keeping some of our older cars in service a little longer, but that would be okay. So we just don't, it's just not feasible for us to kind of say we need $1 million.
It'd be nice to know roughly how much more a year it's gonna cost having everybody with a car and how we're gonna pay for it.
And I think Commander Husby has a point. I don't think it's gonna cost us more. I think that we will have cost savings. The way we'll have cost savings is reduced overtime, reduced mechanical issues. I see more of a reduction than I see an increase in cost.
That's it.
Longevity of police officers. Very serious about, and like, Chief said, that we're losing people to other.
On paper.
I can't even tell you how much it costs to train an officer, we can't hire anybody.
So I would like to know if it's okay if you guys want me to start at 30 and work my way down by incremental 5, or what's your top number you want me to start at?
I'd like to see a cost of 20 and 30.
Yeah, I would agree with.
I'd say 20, looking at all the others.
Okay. Then we will also provide the number of officers within that will be able and eligible, and then get that all broken down for you.
Any other questions, Ms. Ripley?
At this point, I'm kind of in the dark here without a paper and stuff, and, so let's just go forward with it, and I will, I'll get some of the paper.
We'll make sure you get the paperwork. Okay. All right. Any other comments, questions on this item? Seeing none, moving on. Item B, purchasing and procurement discussion. Nancy, you may.
So I am sitting in for Jameson right now, and I've read this over, but not word for word. I did a very good job of skimming it. But the biggest thing is we want to change city manager purchasing authority. And We basically are going to repeal all the following sections of the Sunnyside Municipal Code and have this be an actual administrative policy, instead of having it codified. So, basically, we want to, designate the contract authority to the city manager, for budgeted and routine items that do not require formal competitive bidding. So if it's just a contract that, we're signing, that you've already discussed in all of your budget sessions, and it's already been approved through the budget process, I would have the authority to sign that contract. Already come before council through ordinance and been passed as part of the budget. We would establish updated, purchasing thresholds for the city manager, department directors, and other staff for direct discretionary purchases and approved budget. Then provide more detailed guidelines on purchasing methods and authorize using third-party services for various purchasing processes, including formal competitive bidding, small works rosters, and vendor lists. So that's a common practice right now. We use MRSC for their portal, and we require all of our small works people to go on there for that roster. So we use that as our bidding process. So this would just basically repeal that in the code, put it as a policy, and have you, I bring all policies to you, so you know about them before they go.
Council members, questions or comments?
Maybe no limit whatsoever, as long as we voted it in and it's in the budget.
Okay, so it'd be twofold. Jackie? I'm not sure if you know, but right now I have a purchasing authority of $7,500, and
Nothing.
we found out that it's very hard to have that purchasing, provided. But what we were looking at is there would still be a purchasing limit, but it would probably be around $15,000 to $20,000, and then $5,000 increments for department heads, and then 5,000 increments for. So I would still have a limit on something that hasn't been before council, that hasn't been part of a regularly budgeted item. So if you've never seen it before, I would basically have that authority between $15,000 and $20,000. So if you've seen it and it's budgeted, I would be allowed no matter what the dollar amount is, because that's a formal process.
That makes
And council, just so you're aware, for some edification, council took this action, with the manager, because we had a previous manager who indebted the city to $20,000 for 5 years. So, $100,000, he signed a contract and indebted the city for $100,000 over a 5-year period, and council was not made aware of it until after the contract. So we wanted to make sure that that never happened again, and that's the reason why we put this limit on the manager's purchase and indebt the city, because that's what we're delegating our authority as the council to the manager. Just want you to be mindful of that, but at the same time, I completely understand that as city manager. We want to be able to make sure you can do your job without roadblocks.
and speed up the process.
And normally, there's not very many that come up like that. Really, honestly, almost everything we try to budget and have it completely aware, council completely aware of it. But this does make it just a little bit easier to do our daily.
We keep the budget limit, because like I said, we're planning for the future. She's not gonna be here forever. On the road, we could get another one that's just, oh, here.
Yeah.
I would agree with you. I really wish we had more members of council to discuss this, and we're gonna have this again before
Yes.
us, so we'll
Yeah,
have an
this will
opportunity.
come before you again.
Any other questions on this item?
I do.
Yes, Ms.
Well,
Richards.
not a question, I appreciate your comment on that, Jim, it makes it a little more, understandable why there was a limit on it and stuff. So I appreciate that.
Well, and mind you, Vicki, or excuse me, strictly, the limit was set in 2010 or 2011. So with inflation, imagine how much it would be, that $100,000
Yeah.
now, it would be much more.
Okay. All right, any other questions on this item? Hearing none, moving on. Last item, updated leadership job description discussion. Leanne?
Thank you, and again, I'm pitch hunting for, Ms. Horner, she did all this work. And you have two job descriptions that were brought forward for the administrative services director. And essentially, the only changes in there is the oversight of the recreation, department and the oversight of IT. So it takes the recreation department and adds it, back to public works director. And then, basically takes out IT and recreation from the admin services director. And I'm taking IT, we realized I don't need an updated job description because I'm in charge of everybody. So it was like, well, that's already written in there. So the functionality of it though will come to me. And we've already started it and it's working. We all kind of help each other anyway, so we're a great team. When you have a question, they just find out whoever's in their office and ask.
Council members, questions or comments? I just have one, and you're gonna laugh, but, we're sure that these are FLSA exempt positions.
Positive.
Okay, good. Want to make sure. Council, it's kind of an inside joke, but, you know, we've had that issue in the past, so I want to make sure that that wasn't.
Are you helping with financing and then doing this? Are we stretching our personnel next out?
Well, I've been helping with finance in January, but not to the degree that, you know, I'm not doing anyone's job fully at all, so I'm gonna say that right now, I'm doing my job, and all of that stuff is secondary. We've shifted around some of the duties in the finance department, so to ease Jameson up, so she, and we have a plan of action, basically going forward. So I already know kind of, we need to pass more work down, and that's exactly what Jameson's doing. Back from vacation, we already had a meeting and sitting down and all the papers that we've accumulated anywhere and divide up duties. So I don't feel like I'm taking on anything more excessive than, and honestly, our IT department, I don't have much to do except for a few invoices, so they're easy.
Other questions, comments on this item? Moving on. Coming council meetings. Monday, February 13th, 2023. Thanks for your name.
So Monday, we have our purchasing and procurement policy, Ann Maresco energy savings presentation, and the Department of Ecology Board to wastewater treatment plant, gateway signs agreement, the Yakima Valley Highway Overlay Project. February 27th, water and sewer rate amendment, and nothing on March 6th except for our swearing in and pinning of staff, which will be at the community center.
Cut off for items to the agenda.
Wednesday. Okay, Wednesday the 8th.
Council, if you do have items for the 13th agenda, please get them to me before the 8th. Questions or comments on any of the items? Questions or comments on any of the meetings? Hearing none. Moving on to adjournment. I know of no other business that come for the council and would adjourn the meeting if there's no objection. And seeing no objection, so ordered. We are adjourned as of 7:03.